Ramsay Bolton. To kickstart our list, we welcome Ramsay Bolton, the poster boy for the most deserved death. That twisted creep who made everyone's skin crawl. This guy's resume is a nightmare. Flaying folks alive just for kicks, chasing down women like game in the woods, and putting Sansa and Theon through absolute hell with his sick games and torture sessions. He broke people, body and soul, all while grinning like a kid with a new toy. And don't get me started on how he offed his own dad and stepmom to seize power. This jerk was pure evil on legs, but sweet payback hits hard. After getting trounced at the Battle of the Bastards by Jon Snow's people, Sansa turns the tables big time. She locks him up with his own starving dogs. The same ones he used to rip apart his victims. He thinks they're loyal, but hunger wins. They chow down on him, starting with his smug face. What a poetic chomp of justice for that monster, Joffrey Baratheon. Oh man, Joffrey. Did anyone in the Seven Kingdoms hate this kid more than us? From the moment he showed up, he was a spoiled, bratty nightmare in a crown. This boy literally ordered the head of Ned Stark chopped off, the guy who was basically the hand of the king, just because he felt like it.
Bring me his head!
After that, he spent all his free time being a horrible bully to Sansa, making her look at her father's severed head. So, when his big wedding day, the Purple Wedding, finally came around, we were all just waiting for something bad to happen. And boy, did it deliver. Right in the middle of his cruel little performance, while he was humiliating his Uncle Tyrion, he took a sip of poisoned wine. Watching that little king turn purple, choke, and claw at his throat while his terrified mother held him was one of the greatest moments of relief in TV history. Thank you, Olenna Tyrell, for giving the world that sweet, sweet justice. Walder Frey. Then there's Walder Frey. Where do we even start with this guy? He was a miserable, oath-breaking weasel who thought rules were for other people. His big moment of betrayal, the Red Wedding, was him slaughtering guests who were under his roof, eating his bread and salt. He sat there smirking as his men butchered a pregnant woman and murdered a king he'd sworn to protect.
The Lannisters send their regards.
So, years later, when a quiet serving girl brought him a pie, it felt like just another day for old Walder. He even slapped her rear. Big mistake. The girl revealed she was Arya Stark, and that the pie contained his own sons. Before he could even process that horror, she sliced his throat open and let him bleed out, staring at the last face he'd ever see. A Stark's. After all his scheming, he died alone, choking on his own blood. And it was the sharpest pie he ever ate. It was the perfect closing of a very ugly book. Littlefinger / Peter Baelish. Littlefinger spent his whole life thinking he was the smartest person in the room, whispering and plotting wars from the shadows. He betrayed Ned Stark, manipulated Lysa Arryn, and sold Sansa to Ramsay Bolton, all while pretending to be everyone's friend. The beautiful part is how it ended. The master player finally got played. He thought he was manipulating Sansa and Arya against each other at Winterfell, but the Starks had learned his game. They set a trap, and he walked right into it. Watching his smug confidence shatter was everything. He fell to his knees, begging and listing his crimes like they were accomplishments. Sansa, with the cold tone he taught her, gave the order. After a lifetime of using words as weapons, he was silenced by a single slice. The ultimate schemer was out-schemed by the girls he thought were his pawns. Meryn Trant. Meryn Trant is one of those characters you just instantly dislike. He walks around in shiny Kingsguard armor like he's some great hero, but really he's a bully who picks on people who can't fight back. He beats young girls, follows every awful order without thinking twice, and feels powerful only when someone else is helpless. He also killed Syrio Forel, or at least was responsible for him never being seen again, which makes him extra hated in Arya Stark's book. By the time we see him in Bravos, he's still the same disgusting guy, acting untouchable just because he has a title. He goes to a brothel, asks for younger and younger girls, and thinks nobody is watching. But Arya is, and she's been waiting for this moment since season 1. Arya tracks him, corners him, and makes sure he actually faces the fear he loved to inflict on others. She blinds him, lets him feel how powerless he really is, and then finishes him off. This was pure, unadulterated justice. His death feels like the universe finally cashing a check his behavior wrote a long time ago. Viserys Targaryen. If any death ever matched the man, it was Viserys Targaryen's. He was a human sewer of a brother, abusive, entitled, and cruel, who sold his sister to a warlord and threatened to cut her unborn child from her womb.
You don't want to wake the dragon, do you?
No.
All he ever screamed about was his royal birthright and his golden crown. So Khal Drogo gave him one. In a moment of perfect, brutal poetry, the man who saw himself as a dragon got a crown poured directly onto his head, molten, burning, and fatal. The best part was watching Daenerys, the girl he'd tormented her whole life, watch silently and let it happen. As he died screaming, she simply said, "He was no dragon. Fire cannot kill a dragon." It was the ultimate irony for the ultimate fool. He got exactly what he asked for, and it melted him alive. Tywin Lannister. Tywin Lannister spent his life being the coldest, most powerful man in the room. He was a monster to his enemies, but even worse to his own family. He orchestrated the Red Wedding. He belittled his son Tyrion every single day. And he finally framed him for murder just to be rid of him. So there's a beautiful justice in how it ended. The mighty Tywin, who controlled armies and kingdoms, was found on the toilet, completely vulnerable. The son he despised and sentenced to death was standing there with a crossbow. All of Tywin's power, all his gold, all his clever plans meant nothing in that moment. He died because he never understood that the one person he treated as garbage was the one who would finally strike back. The most powerful lion in the realm was brought down by a single bolt, while taking a private moment. He got the most shameful death possible, and it fit him perfectly. Alliser Thorne. Alright, let's talk about Sir Alliser Thorne, the grumpy old crow who made Lord Snow sound like the worst insult in the world. From the moment Jon showed up at Castle Black, Thorne had it out for him. He mocked him, tried to turn the other recruits against him, and never missed a chance to remind Jon he was just a bastard. But the worst part? He led the mutiny that literally stabbed Jon in the heart. For the Watch, he said, like betrayal suddenly counted as loyalty.
For the Watch.
So, when Jon came back from the dead, you knew the payback was coming. Thorne stood there defiant, still convinced he was right. That's the thing about him. He was stubborn to the point of blindness. He couldn't see that Jon's plan to work with the wildlings was the only shot at surviving the White Walkers. Instead, he clung to old grudges and dragged the Night's Watch into treason. His hanging was justice served cold. Watching Jon cut that rope felt like the wall itself exhaling. Thorne's death was closure. The mutiny ended right there, and the Night's Watch could finally move forward without his bitter shadow looming over them. Roose Bolton, the traitor. Lord Roose Bolton was the Lord of the Dreadfort and the cunning head of House Bolton in the north. Originally one of Robb Stark's top generals during the War of the Five Kings, he was a cold, calculating man who often clashed with Robb over battle strategies. His defining act was the infamous Red Wedding, where he betrayed and personally murdered Robb Stark, his king in the north, after secretly siding with the Freys and Lannisters. As a reward for ending the conflict, King Joffrey named him the Warden of the North. Roose later moved to Winterfell, legitimizing his cruel bastard son, Ramsay Snow, as Ramsay Bolton to secure their hold on the north. However, Roose's cautious nature and preference for his new son with Walder Frey angered Ramsay, who was constantly worried about being disinherited. In a twisted turn of justice, Ramsay betrayed his father and stabbed Roose to death, just as Roose had stabbed Robb. Ramsay then cemented his brutality by killing his stepmother Walda and his newborn half-brother, Lysa Arryn. Lysa Arryn was the definition of paranoia wrapped in power. As Lady of the Vale, she was consumed by jealousy and fear. At Littlefinger's urging, she poisoned her own husband, Jon Arryn, setting off a chain of chaos across Westeros. That alone was shocking, but her obsession didn't stop there. When Sansa came under her care, Lysa's jealousy boiled over. She couldn't stand the idea of Littlefinger showing affection to anyone else. And in a fit of rage, she tried to shove Sansa through the moon door.
He is mine! My father!
But justice came swiftly. Littlefinger, the man she thought was her ally, revealed the cruel truth. He never loved her, only her sister Catelyn. That single confession shattered her, cutting deeper than any blade. And then, without hesitation, he pushed her through the moon door himself. For a woman who thrived on paranoia and cruelty, her end was as dramatic as her life, falling from the very castle she believed made her untouchable. Janos Slynt, Janos Slynt is one of those characters who makes you annoyed the moment he opens his mouth. From the start, this guy was all about power, titles, and hiding behind other people while pretending to be brave. He betrayed Ned Stark without blinking, helped the Lannisters wipe out innocent people, and then strutted around like he was some great hero. But the truth? Janos was only tough when he had an army behind him. Then he gets sent to the wall, and everything about him is exposed. During the Battle of Castle Black, when real danger shows up, he runs to the kitchen and hides. That's Janos in one moment. Loud when safe, silent when it matters. So when Jon Snow becomes Lord Commander and gives him a simple order, Janos does what he always does. Talks big and disrespects him. And Jon does what the whole audience has secretly wanted since season 1. He ends it. Clean, calm, and in front of everyone. Janos Slynt's death felt right because it was karma finally catching up to a bully who thought he'd never pay for anything. The High Sparrow. Oh boy, if there's a guy who had it coming, it had to be the High Sparrow, that sneaky religious nut who wormed his way into power in King's Landing. He started off looking all humble, barefoot, and serving soup to the poor, but don't let that fool you. This dude was a total fanatic, preaching equality while grabbing control like a boss. He brought back the faith militant, those armed holy thugs, and used them to shame and lock up folks who crossed him. Remember how he humiliated Cersei with that naked walk through the streets? And he tossed Margaery and Loras Tyrell into cells for sins like being gay or lying about it. He even twisted young King Tommen around his finger, turning the kid into a puppet to push his strict rules on everyone, highborn or not. But karma's a wildfire, right? In the end, Cersei flips the script big time. She skips her trial and lets her secret stash of green flames blow up the whole great sept of Baelor. The High Sparrow's standing there, all smug with his followers, when boom, he's toast, vaporized in a massive explosion. He realizes too late she's outsmarted him, and poof, no more holy tyrant. What a blazing exit for such a power-hungry preacher. Polliver. Polliver is that classic bully who thinks a shiny lion badge makes him important. He's a Lannister soldier, walks around acting tough, and feels big picking on kids. He steals Arya's sword, needle, and kills her friend Lamy while mocking him. That's the kind of guy he is. He laughs while hurting people who can't fight back. From that moment on, he's on Arya's personal to-do list. Fast forward to season 4. Polliver is in a tavern, drinking, bragging, and being his usual awful self. He has no idea his past is about to walk right back into his life. Arya shows up with the Hound, but this time, she's calm, focused, and she wants her sword back. She takes Polliver down and gives him a taste of his own medicine, almost word for word.
Something wrong with your leg, boy?
What do you mean?
Arya repeats the exact same lines he said to Lamy and then finishes him the same way he killed her friend. See, Polliver's death feels earned. The guy who mocked other people's pain finally had to face his own, Karl Tanner. Man, this total scumbag earned every bit of his nasty end. Karl Tanner, the so-called legend from Gin Alley in King's Landing. This dude was a ruthless killer back home, quick with daggers and proud of it, bumping off folks for pocket change. He dodged the noose by joining the Night's Watch, but loyalty? Nope, not his thing. During the big trip beyond the wall, he flips out at Craster's keep, sparking a mutiny. He stabs old Craster in the throat, watches his friends kill Lord Commander Mormont, then turns the place into his twisted playground. He drinks wine from Mormont's skull, rapes Craster's daughter wives, and bullies everyone around like a thug. But hey, what goes around comes stabbing back. Jon Snow and his men crash the party to clean house. Karl tries his dirty tricks in a close fight, spitting in Jon's face and all, but gets distracted by one of the wives jabbing him. Jon seizes the moment and rams Longclaw right through the back of his skull, out the mouth. Boom! Instant karma. Sweet justice for that creep. Craster. Craster is one of those characters who makes you uncomfortable the second he shows up. He lives beyond the wall, calls his place Craster's Keep, and acts like he's some important king. In reality, he's abusive, cruel, and completely full of himself. He marries his own daughters, controls everyone around him, and whenever a baby boy is born, he takes the child into the woods and gives him to the White Walkers. Then he still has the nerve to call himself a godly man. The Night's Watch only puts up with him because they need shelter. He insults them, feeds them barely anything, and walks around as if nobody can touch him. But they endure it because they're cold and desperate. Eventually, though, that fake power he has runs out. You see, during one of his loud, drunken rants, the men he's been looking down on finally snap. The mutineers of the Night's Watch turn on him, and Craster is killed inside the very hall where he thought he was untouchable. His death feels deserved. After everything he did, karma finally walked through his front door. Who do you think was the most deserved death in this series? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. Thanks. I'll see you on this next one.